experiment is to test, track, and reduce the amount of waste we produce each month. According to the Natural Resources Defense Council, 40% of food in the United States goes uneaten, which contributes to 20 pounds of food waste per person each month that goes to the landfill. Our group is going to test these statistical findings by taking careful logs of our food waste over a 1-month period and comparing our data to the national average. We will then reduce our food waste over 1 month by donating non-meat food scraps to the Brooklyn College Compost Garden. To understand the benefits of food waste reduction and composting, we will be performing nutrient tests on the compost as well as the soil found in the garden.
Classmates, today we are in the garden at Brooklyn College with the STAT Club, which stands for Sustainability for Today and Tomorrow. The STAT Club focuses primarily on ways in which to create a sustainable ecosystem in urban areas. One way in which they do this is by collecting compost at all CUNY schools. Today we've brought our own food waste in an effort to reduce our own ecological footprint, which you can see here. And we're going to be donating all of this to the STAT Club.
So behind you is the athletic field. That used to be where the community garden was, and then when they redid the West Quad building. They needed a new community garden because it was no longer here. So they built this one, which is about the same size as what was available. Unfortunately, the soil here was contaminated, so they ended up building up these little plots. Now every year these plots have to be refilled with compost, and that's the 3 bins behind us. That's why we're doing compost. Let me see if I can show you kind of evidence of where the compost goes. I guess this one here, this is a pretty good example. You can see the soil's pretty low, and then right around here you'll see that the wood has worn beneath it and not necessarily above it. That's how much compost was there prior to that, and then whatever vegetables and plants were in here use that soil or that compost, the nutrients in it, to grow. So it's important that we constantly keep making compost so we can refill these plots every season. The soil that we're stepping on now is naturally composting through wood chips that we receive through the city. So we're actually slowly but surely enriching this soil so it'll be better over time. Every year we get new chips. And then if you want, I can show you the actual compost.
Let's do it.
Basic stuff.
So this is a basic 3-bin system. The best way of thinking about compost is essentially there's a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients, a lot of mass in what we throw away, like vegetables, leaf scraps, coffee grinds, and that can all be used. Vegetables like to use that. It makes them grow bigger, grow better, naturally, because they're just reusing what was necessarily waste. So you can see in here we'll have some like greens. These were just stems that someone brought in. Then you'll have some pieces of actual fruit. We'll have some like orange peels. Plenty of browns. They're just leaves. There's water in there, and then there's air in there. And I can actually I'll turn it so you can see that. But that's essentially the recipe that you need for good compost. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the 3-bin system?
Yeah. So each bin is about, you'll see it's 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. So it's 3 different cubes. In this case, the community garden, Professor Hainline and Seagren both kind of came up with this articulated top, so it allows the elderly and the youngs who live in the community who contribute to it to be able to open it easier. There's these slats that come in and out. This allows us to get into the bottom when we're actually turning it, because you need to turn it every once in a while. And the first bin is typically where you're going to be working, so we're going to be filling that up for the rest of the semester. The second and third bin you can use for holding. So this is still curing in here. You can see that soil, but it looked like that prior to that. Right now that thermometer is not in there all the way, and it's a little cold out, but typically these aren't going to be as hot as that. The actual the one that we call the one that's like working, the one that's like churning, that's actually gets really hot in there, and then when we turn it, you'll see steam coming out. This last one was actually like a little experiment that they did. So you see this one's a little bit further in the curing, and it's also kind of dried up now. But there's other ways of composting. Here we're trying to naturally compost these leaves. That recipe that I gave you with greens, browns, air, and water. That accelerates it, especially in the size and that mass. It'll heat it up and bacteria will break it down so we can make it into soil. This is more natural. This will take a little bit longer, but this is a great alternative. So we're trying to maximize on the amount of space that we have. We can't build another 3-bin system here, so we're going to use it up for leaf piles. This has been filling up for quite a while, and you can see it's fairly large. We have a second one over here. Right over here we have one for vegetable scraps, which is a little different. So these are just small experiments that have been essentially going on all the time. Different kinds of leaves we use for different things. This one in particular here has a lot of pine. So Seguin would like to use it for the blueberry bushes that they're trying to grow over on, I guess that's the east side.
Has working here in the garden caused you to change your own food waste habits?
Yeah, I do as much as I can. Like if I make smoothies, like the little strawberry tops, banana peels, apple cores if I don't use them, I can bring them in. I'll put them in a little plastic bag. I'll freeze them for about a week. Bring them over here and then throw them into the pile.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I'm here at Chipotle Kings Plaza. This is where I work. I'm now going to demonstrate what we do at the end of the night to throw out our leftover compostable food scraps. Usually this would be either donated or composted, but because of the area we're in and the mall services, we do not compost and we do not recycle, I guess, or donate any sort of our food. So what I have here is I have our leftover fajita peppers and onions for the evening. I'm going to weigh that. 26 ounces garbage. Black beans. We're actually going to save the pinto beans tonight because there's enough to go for tomorrow. 68 ounces garbage. Now, unfortunately, that's just a huge waste because if we were in a different part of Brooklyn that offered compost services, that would all just go straight into whatever neighborhood it is that does it. I believe it's Park Place.
Okay, now I'm going to show you the process by which we weigh and record the data of the food waste that we've collected over the past few weeks. These are banana skins. We put them on the scale and we weigh them. These are orange peels. Squash on Thanksgiving. Eggshells. Eggshells really smell, so I have to freeze those. They don't work very well in the refrigerator. Here's my collection of compostable food waste that I've collected over the last about 3 weeks, and it totals just over 10.5 pounds.
Mind if I actually do some of the chopping?
Oh, go for it. I'll get you some gloves. If you would like them.
Yeah, I'm alright. I can always wash my hands.
If you're not going to keep those back, though, just toss them, okay? Alright, you have yeah.
Alright, so you think we should add any more or just
No, that's pretty good. You can go ahead and chop it. I'll let you know what you can kind of see when it's about done.
Alright, so here we have the chopped up compost, which isn't even half of it yet. I'm going to go ahead and add that into the pile. And then an equal amount of the browns. In we go. And now would you like me to stir that around more? Because we got a lot more to chop.
No, you don't have to yet. We'll keep this pile essentially is the product, the finished product of compost. It came from the second bin over there, and we unloaded it right onto here. It's not. This isn't the full thing, but you can see this is just. It looks like, good soil.
Yeah, it's dark.
It's dark. It's nutrient rich, and it'll help the
and it appears way less dry than the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been covered though, so it's keeping in its moisture. At this point, it's not cooking anymore. There isn't bacteria breaking it down. We're just kind of holding it, waiting for it to be used. So these pieces are fairly small, so we don't need to break them up. But something like this, if we break this up, which I'll show you now, we can actually, it'll accelerate the process a little bit better. More surface area, it'll decompose a little bit faster. I'll show you what it looks like to turn this now. We have some more big pieces that we're going to want to break up. Okay. So on top it looks like fairly raw vegetables, fruits, and leaves. But the further you get down, you'll start seeing steam come off of it.
Oh wow.
It starts to have kind of a...
Doesn't smell great.
It has an interesting smell. That's decomposing matter. That white stuff you see is bacteria that's breaking it down. And you can see it's pretty moist down there. And the deeper you go, you'll see the more like just wet soil it looks. You even got some earthworms in there, potato bugs. And that's good. That means it's working, that means it's cooking. And that's important when it's cold.
So how many times a day or a week or a month do you guys actually come out here and turn this?
The Sustainability Club has a partnership with the cafeteria, and we try to do it Monday and Wednesday. We pick up scraps. They come in buckets like this. We've had 1 bucket, we've had 4 buckets a day, it depends. And then we'll come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we have our meetings. We'll break this down, I'll show you how to do that now, and then we'll fill it in. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's twice a week.
I mean, it's definitely a cool thing you guys are doing here, and it definitely helps with the sustainability on campus.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, there's tons of trash that's not going into the trash. We can use it. It's like free trash pickup for the cafeteria, and for the gardeners. Whoever, I mean, if a student wanted a plot, they could totally get a plot. The Sustainability Club is trying to get a plot next semester. We can use it, and we can kind of use it like, they like to think of the garden as like a little workshop, like a second classroom. So you can imagine you can come out here and learn how to grow like herbs, and then where can you use those herbs? So it's just kind of like cyclical in that sense.
Cool.
Let me show you how to break this down.
Now I'm going to talk about the results from before and after we began composting. The average was 20 pounds per month for each individual. Our results before were very similar to the national average for food waste produced. Natalie produced 25.3 pounds of food waste. Alex produced 16 pounds of food waste. Brooke produced 20.3 pounds of food waste. And Eva produced 23.4 pounds of food waste in a 1 month period. This next chart is a comparison of our food waste to the national average after we started donating food scraps to the compost garden. As you can see, there is a drastic reduction of waste. Altogether, we donated 58.7 pounds of food scraps. This reduced Natalie's food waste by 17 pounds, 62%, Alex's food waste 13 pounds, 81%, Brooke's food waste 12 pounds, 59%, and Eva's food waste by 14 pounds, 69%, which reduced our cumulative food waste by an incredible 65% over the course of the month. The results of our experiment supported our hypothesis that composting would reduce our food waste and also contribute to creating a more healthy environment.
So today we're testing the soil samples that were taken from the garden. This was taken from the compost bin. And this one was taken from a part of the garden that does not do compost. What we're testing today is if composting really does make a healthy soil. So here we have the test kits. One is pH, one is nitrogen, one is phosphorus, and one is potassium. And these are the nutrients that are found in soil. So we're going to see if the compost soil versus the non-compost soil has more or less adequate nutrients and pH. Once you fill the test chamber with water, it and you add the little pill. The water inside changes colors, and this goes from dark to light. So the darker, the more nitrogen, the lighter, the less nitrogen, and that's the same for phosphorus and potassium. Okay, so what we're going to do is add the compost to the water. This is 1 part compost to 5 parts water. Then once you throw it in there, you have to mix it around. Now, an important part of this test is letting the soil settle. So we have to wait until the soil settles to the bottom and the top is just water, because we have to put only water in the test chambers. So it's been about 2 hours since we started the experiment, and the soil's pretty settled on the bottom, so we can get some water out of there. And we're going to test now for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And we're going to do the compost first. So here goes. And we're just going to put some water in the test chamber. I'm going to do that for each one. So we filled the reference chambers and the test chambers, and now we're going to put the pills inside of the test chamber. And the first one is nitrogen. So while we wait, we're going to do a pH test for the compost soil. Now with this one, it's a little different. You put soil in the test and you fill it up to, there's a little fill line. And then after you've done that, you add distilled water to the test chamber. And the reference chamber. And once you've done that, you add one of these pills to the test chamber. Okay, so about 10 minutes have passed and we got all the results from our tests. So the pH is about neutral. And the nitrogen is actually deficient. The phosphorus, it's very rich in phosphorus. There's a surplus. And the potassium is also very rich. And that is our results from the compost. So now we are going to test our non-compost soil. And once again, we're going to fill test chambers. So now we have the results. It's been about 10 minutes. And we have slightly different results from the non-compost test. And what we have here is pH of 7.5. So that's fairly high pH. And we have the nitrogen results, which is completely nitrogen depleted. That means there's no nitrogen in there at all. And we have phosphorus, which is slightly lower than the other one, which was phosphorus surplus, and this one is phosphorus sufficient. And as for potassium, we also have slightly lower than the compost, which was surplus, and this one is potassium sufficient. The purpose of our experiment was to see how much food waste we produce each month compared to that of the national average. We have also made an effort to reduce our food waste by donating non-meat food scraps to the Brooklyn College Compost Garden. The purpose of the soil test were to see if composting is really more beneficial, not only to waste reduction, but also to creating a more nutrient-rich soil. And as you can see from the results of the tests, compost was more rich in nutrients than the soil that had not been enriched with compost.